Good evening. I'm Gary Witherspoon, Deputy Project Director for Public Outreach for the Purple Line. On behalf of Governor Larry Hogan, Transportation Secretary Gregory Slater, and Maryland Transit Administration Administrator Kevin Quinn, welcome to the 7th Community Advisory Committee meeting for Silver Spring. Due to COVID restrictions, we are trying a new format this time out. Please bear with us as this is our first series of live public meetings. And please mute your mics and your phones. Next slide, please. Tonight, we'll cover the segment of the Purple Line that includes the following stations: Silver Spring Metro, Silver Spring Library, and Dale Drive. Next slide, please. You'll receive a project update from Matt Pollock and Vern Hartsock, the new leaders of the MDOT MTA Office of Transit Development and Delivery, which oversees the project. For those who didn't know, they replaced Chuck Latuka and Jeff Enzer. And I've been trying to fill the very large shoes of Mike Madden. I stole this tie from his collection. Matt and Vern will introduce themselves and fill you in on what is happening with the project. After their introductions, we'll update you on construction and tell you how the MDOT MTA plans to manage that construction. We'll give you reminders about things to look out for during construction, and we'll provide an update on the art and transit component of the project. We'll tell you where to submit questions beyond those that will be addressed tonight. This evening's presentation is being recorded, so you will be able to find it later on our website, purplelinemd.com. That's purplelinemd.com, along with responses to questions we could either not answer or could not get to tonight. We ask that you hold your questions until after the presentation. Then we will open the meeting to questions, first from CAP members and elected officials. We'll invite you to raise your hand. This app does not have a wave your hand option, so you have to actually turn on your camera and physically wave so that I can see you. Then you will be acknowledged, and you should unmute yourself by either clicking on your microphone icon or by pressing Control-Shift-M. That's Control-Shift-M as in mute. Non-CAT members who are viewing the meeting and have questions can ask them using the Q&A function on your screen, time permitting. Just tap on the question mark icon and we will address your questions if we have time. If your question is not addressed tonight, don't worry. All questions will be addressed later in a question and response posting on the website. Similar questions will be combined, so you may not see your question posted verbatim. Thank you for joining us. Here's Matt Pollock.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Matt Pollock, Executive Director for Transit Development and Delivery for MDOT MTA, and I am responsible for the Purple Line project. This is by no means my first light rail project. I've been involved on light rail projects since the early 1990s. My experience includes light rail startup and expansion projects in St. Louis, Pittsburgh, London, and Charlotte, to name a few. However, without a doubt, being able to join the Purple Line project here in my home state is a real source of pride. Going back a few years, I grew up in the White Oak area of Montgomery County, and now I live in Prince George's County. I'm honored to be on the job and here to take the project to completion. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Vern Hartsock, our acting project director.
Thank you, Matt, and good evening, everyone. A little about myself. I'm Vern Hartsock, acting project director. I've served with the MTA for over 28 years. I've been working on the Purple Line for 8 months. And prior to that, I was MTA's chief engineer. Prior to joining the MTA, I worked in a variety of technical positions in the private sector for 10 years and also taught college for some time. I'm a software engineer by training, and I've successfully delivered many transit construction projects for light rail, metro subway, and bus. I'm a Baltimore native, and I'm extremely excited to be part of the team delivering the Purple Line project. I'll now pass back to Matt for a project update. Thank you.
Thank you, Vern. While most of you are probably up to date regarding the events of the past couple months, I do want to back up briefly. In the May and June timeframe, the concessionaire PLTP and the design build contractor PLTC both sent in notices of termination for extended delay. The state disputes the validity of an extended delay as defined in the P3 agreement and sought to keep both PLTP and PLTC on the project. A temporary restraining order kept PLTP and PLTC on the project through August. However, in September, the Baltimore Circuit Court ruled that both PLTP and PLTC could leave the project without going through the dispute resolution process. While the design build contractor has fully demobilized from the project, the concessionaire is still trying to find a way to continue its relationship with the state and the Purple Line project. This is how we find ourselves on a parallel path. We continue to negotiate with the concessionaire PLTP and hope to reach a fair and reasonable settlement. At the same time, the state and my team is implementing a plan to deliver the Purple Line without PLTP and PLTC. At the end of September, MDOT MTA officially took over the day-to-day management of the Purple Line project by taking assignment of PLTP's and PLTC's subcontracts. These subcontracts include the light rail vehicle manufacturer, the O&M contractor, dozens of purchase orders, and all of the construction firms working under PLTC. With the new team of available MDOT MTA contractors, we commenced the management of construction activities. Vern will provide details of this in just a couple of slides. Next slide, please. In addition to the primary work under the P3 agreement, there are other Purple Line construction activities that have been underway and will continue. These activities include the Polk Street Maintenance Facility in Prince George's County and some environmental projects at Kengar Park and within the Paint Branch Stream. Next slide, please. A few other items related to the overall project that I did want to mention. PLTC's departure from the project has presented some complexities associated with the resumption of construction, primarily because 30% of the work was performed by PLTC itself. This creates scope gaps that need to be addressed through coordination with the remaining contractors. Equally important, it potentially creates capability gaps whereby certain construction services may not be available through the remaining contractors. A primary example of this is the situation with respect to blasting, which requires specialized staff and permitting. As we continue our discussions with contractors about resuming work on the project, we're looking to integrate the firms into teams that can complete the work in the field. We are also identifying activities that will remain incomplete until a new design build contractor is on board. To the extent possible, we respectfully request your patience as we navigate these complexities. Project funding, on the other hand, while evolving, is in place and available. The Purple Line will continue to move forward with funding from the Transportation Trust Fund. The Transportation Trust Fund allows us to keep the project moving forward in the short term while the long-term financing options are evaluated. The long-term plan, encompassing funding, procurement, and a schedule, remains under development. The state intends to have a concessionaire and a new design build contractor ultimately take the project through construction and into operations and maintenance. And along the way, MDOT and MTA want to facilitate success through ongoing dialogue with all of you, the community, the residents, and the businesses impacted by the Purple Line. We're trying very hard to minimize confusion, and we hope that you will continue to see this as a collaborative effort. Next slide, please. With that, I will pass to Vern to discuss MDOT MTA's management of construction.
Thank you, Matt. Next slide, please. Now, during October and November, MDOT, MTA, and the contractors that we've taken assignment of have been working together to complete some very important aspects of the project. This includes the manufacturing of light rail vehicles, which is taking place in Elmira, New York, and in Spain, as well as other key project components, such as the traction power substations, the railway signaling instrument houses, electrical components, and the special track work. In addition to completing the final construction designs for the stormwater management and intelligent transportation systems across the alignment. Next slide, please. Starting with a few select locations, MDOT MTA is directing the resumption of on-site construction along the alignment. Now, as contractors come online, the volume of this work will increase. As of today, we have more than a dozen contractors remobilized working on the site. And to list just a few of them here, we have Pessoa Construction Company, who is performing water and sewer utility relocations and concrete work, Henkels and McCoy, who is performing gas and overhead power relocations, MC Dean, who is performing systems and electrical work, and Empire Landscaping, who is performing system-wide erosion and sediment control maintenance. They're also responsible for maintaining the grounds around the new M at the University of Maryland, as well as traffic engineering services, who are performing maintenance of traffic support. Next slide, please. Now, giving a snapshot of our near-term and longer-term activities. To start with, in the near term, which is in the next 3 to 6 months, we're working on the continuation of relocation of all underground utilities. Now, there's a vast amount of underground utilities, including water, gas, sewer, telecommunications, and these all have to be safely moved out of the way before the rail line can be built. Storm drain installations will occur. Wall construction will continue. There's hundreds of walls that are a part of the project that are in many stages of construction that we'll be working on, as well as completing the parking for Kenwood House. That's also one of our objectives. Now, in the longer term, which is 6 to 12 months, we're focusing on utility relocations continuing along Wayne Avenue, Fenton Street, and Bonifant Street. Now, I'm going to pass to Gary Witherspoon for construction reminders and an update on art in transit. Thank you.
Thank you, Vern. Next slide, please. As Matt and Vern have told you, the project is alive and kicking. And because of that, you should know that existing traffic patterns will change as work occurs as needed. And work may occur on both sides of the roads and across roadways. When a lane closure is required, a notice will be distributed via text and email, but you have to sign up. And you can sign up through purpleLineMD.com if you haven't already, purpleLineMD.com. Orange cones and barrels will be in place as temporary barricades, and you'll see our workers out there, including flag people, when required to direct traffic. Please be careful around our workers as we want them all to make it home safely. Safety is our #1 priority. You'll also see underground utility work going on, and that may require temporary road plates. Next slide, please. Again, you can sign up for construction notices at purpleLineMD.com. That's purpleLineMD.com. For project questions and comments, contact MDOT MTA Public Outreach. That's our department at outreach@purpleLineMD.com. Outreach@purpleLineMD.com. Or you can call us at 443-451-3706 for English, or 443-451-3705 for Spanish. We're working on manning a hotline so that someone will be available to take your calls as they come in. Next slide, please. Our Art in Transit program. You should know the program is intact. We are meeting with and talking to artists weekly. They have been made fully aware of the project status. Almost all of their contracts have been completed, and they are now being fully managed by the MDOT MTA. Half of the fully executed contracts are in Montgomery County, and you can see the artists' renderings on the website, purplelinemd.com. Again, that's purplelinemd.com. We've got some great artwork planned, and we expect installations to occur as designed in the latter stages of construction. Next slide, please. This concludes our main CAT presentation. Before we open up the meeting to live questions, Matt and Vern will address those questions that came in before the meeting. Matt?
Thank you, Gary. All right. We received, I want to say about 7 questions ahead of time that we're going to answer first. First question, do you expect any portions of the project design to change now that the P3 agreement has ended? The status of the P3 agreement is in dispute, actually, and is part of the pending litigation. However, regardless of that litigation, the Purple Line does not expect any designs to change. Question 2, is it possible to accelerate completion of certain infrastructure in and around the project that is disruptive to the community? The state is evaluating construction across the alignment, including areas of local community priority. MTA is actively working with design, construction, and manufacturing contractors to keep the project moving forward. Our focus is on completing design, permitting, and any unfinished work, first with paving, stormwater, drainage, and other utility projects now underway along the Purple Line corridor. We remain committed to continue working with the community and local businesses to collaborate and find opportunities to minimize any impacts to the best of our ability. If the state is able to reasonably advance work beyond utilities, using the available pool of contractors, the state will do so. 3, what new general timelines can we expect for completion of various aspects of the project from what PLTC planned? The state will manage Purple Line construction until the new design build contractor is on board. We do not have a new timeline at this time. Next slide, please. Is there a contingency plan for if funding runs out to finish the project? How would the work sites be closed down or restored so they don't remain an open sore in our community? The state fully intends to finish the Purple Line project. What is the prospect for seeking additional federal assistance with the upcoming change in executive leadership at the federal level? The federal participation in the Purple Line project includes the $900 million full funding grant agreement and access to TIFIA loans. TIFIA is Transportation Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act. The state is not anticipating additional federal assistance for the Purple Line. Next question. Do you plan to continue occasional Saturday work on Bonifant Street? During this ongoing MTA-managed construction period, the state will make every effort to avoid Saturday construction work along Bonifant Street. If weather or other events impact the construction schedule, the state will endeavor to use Sundays as the bad weather makeup days. And the last question we have is, when will Bonifant Street on the west side be reopened? Bonifant Street, west of Georgia Avenue, has significant utilities that still need to be relocated. We do not have a reopening date right now, but we do want to remind everyone that the west segment of Bonifant Street in its final configuration will be one-way westbound between Georgia and Dixon, and it will be closed between Dixon Avenue and Ramsey Avenue. Next slide, please. And I'll open it up to Gary to see if we have any additional questions.
Yes, Melvin Tall, please unmute yourself and fire away.
Okay, two questions about, or things about Bonifant Street. Matt, I think the issue you just covered about the west side is really that when it's not open, it's really open for a lot of other people to make misuse of it. And if you don't do something to control it in the interim, you're liable to find it's turned into a campsite by the time you get back to work. And I think a lot of people would like to see some control there so that the ATVs that race through Silver Spring don't use it as a gathering place. And really what we're asking for is control, not to finish construction. But my question really was about the other side of Bonifant Street. When you carry the whole project across Georgia Avenue and get to the other side, there's a traffic signal in the way, a mast arm. And my question is, has the design progressed enough to be able to talk to us about how the traffic signal is going to be relocated? As you know, it's a very tight pinch point, and you can't move it back much without running into a building. You can't move it forward much without getting in the way of the train. So I was wondering how the design is going.
Well, you've asked a couple questions, so I'll go with the second one first on the Bonifant East for the traffic signal. And unfortunately, my answer is that we're going to have to get back to you on that one. I will say that I believe the design for that area is done, but for me to actually give you a definitive answer, I think Vern and I need to head back and actually take a look at some drawings and then respond in writing to you. And I apologize for that. Now, going back to Bonifant West, you know, the concerns about it just being left unoccupied. And I know there was a number of emails back and forth over the last few weeks about, you know, ATVs and some videos of the activity over there. Yeah, and we put some construction, you know, barriers there to discourage some of the work. But you know, the bigger question is as far as getting back in there. So we will be getting back in there in the short-term time frame, which is over the next few months. It's just we won't be out of there for a while. So, you know, as far as it just being an open road without construction activities, that will not last too much longer. However, it will be maintained as a construction site for quite a while because of the depth and amount of utilities in that area.
Okay, we have a question from Leah Harris.
Yes, so I'm pleasantly surprised to see that Kenwood House is on the 3 to 6 month time frame, but I would like to know what that means. Does that mean you'll start doing something with our parking in 3 to 6 months, or does that mean what? I mean, they were probably 2 months away from finishing it. It was really a shame it shut down when it did. And we have a lot of elderly people. Right now, we have generally 3 entrances and exits from our building. And because our driveway had some structural issues, we had to shut down our driveway out front. So we currently have 1 exit from the building for 48 units down a hill. Winter's coming, and they have to walk all the way down this hill and then down the hill on Wayne Avenue to get to the temporary parking lot. So it would be really helpful if I could tell them that, you know, you're actually going to start in a couple months. I mean, I don't really want to tell them you're starting in 6 months. I don't know how long the anticipation is, because it really does look like they were getting close to the point where they would want to relocate our parking back up there. And so if you could just elaborate on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, Leah, I appreciate you bringing that to us. And actually, it was, you know, community input that helped us reprioritize, going back to the question before, whether if there are opportunities to make a difference in the short term, we want to try and do it, and the Kenwood House parking is one of the areas. We don't know exactly when we're going to finish, because we're still making sure we understand completely the work that has to be done, but it is our intent. So we're in mid-November now, and really we have Thanksgiving coming up in about a week, but our intent is to be there in December and to start the work. And then, once we're in there and we know what's going on, I guess it would probably make more sense for us to get back to you and your property folks at that time, when we know exactly when we're going to be able to hit that schedule.
Could we make an appointment to walk the job in mid-December or something, and then go through and tell me what exactly is going to happen and what we can expect? And I can show you where we've had some issues with them flooding our laundry room because they took away our stormwater management there, because everything used to funnel down into where the tunnel was, and there was a big grate, and they took that away. And actually our lawyers talking to their insurance company about the flooding of our laundry room twice. So I want to point out some of the issues that we've had since it's a whole new crew in there. Would that be possible?
Yeah, it would absolutely be possible. Probably, I would reach out through Gary at the outreach number, but it might even make more sense if we got in there and walked it with you before we started. That'd be great. Whichever works out better. Absolutely.
That'd be great.
Okay, more questions from live CAT members? By the way, we have Joe Mogiz from the SHA joining the meeting tonight.
Gary, can I jump in real quick?
Please do. Go ahead, Joe.
Melvin, Mr. Tull, I believe you asked a question about signal placement or maintenance of traffic for construction of the signal at George Avenue and Bonifant Street. Is that correct? You can just nod. Is that right?
That's right, Joe.
Okay.
The problem is I don't want it to end up blocking the sidewalk so people can't walk by, because walking out in the street in front of a train could be hazardous.
Oh, you're talking about in the ultimate condition?
Yeah, when you build it.
Yes. Well, the intersection will have full pedestrian mobility, ADA compliant sidewalks, ADA ramps, detectable warning surfaces, and everything.
Yeah, I understand the words. I'd like to see a design.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, we'll circle back and get that for you.
Right.
All right, Paul Genesee wants to know if we are talking to the school system over schedule and the work we're doing, especially around Silver Spring International Middle School and Sligo Creek Elementary.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a good question, and I appreciate that. Where we are affecting basically three schools, the two you mentioned, the elementary school and the middle school at Dale and Wayne, and then over in Littonsville, Rosemary Hills. So we are working with the school system on not only our work, but our impacts. And we do have agreements with the school system that we won't be, performing any noise intrusive type of work when students are at the school.
Okay. Question from Katie Shaver. Is MDOT definitely pursuing another P3 or only another design build contractor?
Well, thank you, Katie. My first inclination is to immediately pass it to Vern, but I'll answer this question. Our intent right now is to continue in a P3 configuration. We believe that the P3 has benefits to the state, both in its financing option and its ability to extend into the operations and maintenance period. So for now, our plan is absolutely to stay with a P3.
Okay, we got a question from Karen Roper. Will they be plowing, this is for SHA, will they be plowing the snow on Wayne and Bonifant this winter, or does it make more sense to contract with the county to do it?
This has come to me in the past few weeks. I guess it wasn't made clear because we didn't have much snow last year, but there was a road transfer agreement in association with the Purple Line project, and MDOT SHA is responsible for Bonifant West and Bonifant East and Wayne Avenue. So we will be conducting all maintenance, including snow removal. And if there's any further questions, I mean, feel free to throw them my way and we can follow up.
Okay, Jane Redeker, take it away.
Thank you very much. I wanted to ask a follow-up question. In your presentation, you showed that the utility relocation on Bonifant was 6 to 12 months in that category. Since we have 6 months between now and then, why can't we reopen Bonifant for the safety reasons? So those ATVs are going on the sidewalks. They're creating a huge pedestrian hazard and a huge noise hazard. And the only reason that they're there is because it's a perfect congregation place. The barrels that you put up, nice try, but it didn't work. So if we're not going to be working on that side of Bonifant on the west side of Georgia for the next 6 months, why can't we open it back up and then close it again?
Thank you, Jane.
Yep.
And actually, that gives us an opportunity to clarify, because the slide said something slightly different, but obviously it didn't convey correctly. So what we're saying is that in the short term, we are going to be doing utility relocations, and in the long term, we are going to be continuing relocations. So we, in essence, for the next 12 months, while the state is managing construction, that entire period, both short-term and long-term, will include utility relocations. So our intent, as far as getting onto the west side of Bonifant, is to do it, as soon as possible under our short-term plan. And I apologize that wasn't clear.
You might want to change that slide because it was confusing.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that feedback.
Hey, Matt, this is Mel Tall. Can I pitch in on that again? It's just that MTA is now responsible for that stretch of roadway. It's being misused. All we really want right now is for you to figure out a way to control it, not to put up some barrels and things like that, but to actually figure out how to control this so it's not a nuisance for the next months and years.
And so it's safe.
Control.
Because right now it's not safe.
No, and I understand and I share your concern. And so, we will reach out to the county and with SHA, and we'll coordinate and see what we can do to address the concerns as far as the safety. Recognizing that it's not, I think it's security you're discussing as opposed to safety, because I believe that the area is safe. It's cordoned off, and there are no safety hazards. But I do acknowledge your concerns about security. So we'll take that back and see if there's additional things we can do from a security standpoint.
Yeah, think about the definitions of safety.
Yeah, because it goes beyond security, Matt. We got people from the apartment building who are trying to cross the street, who are walking down the sidewalk from the metro, and nobody's controlling these ATVs. They're riding on the sidewalk, and it's dark there. So people who are walking back to their apartments or walking anywhere to the metro, it's not safe. It's not just security, it's safety.
Can I jump in?
Okay. Yep.
Speaking on behalf of the state, SHA, this was forwarded to me through Maricela, who's a Purple Line manager on behalf of Montgomery County, and we discussed this with MTA personnel, and I think they made a good faith effort by installing new traffic control devices on the east side of the crosswalk for Bonifant West. The photos I did see and the videos I saw, and as you stated, included ATVs operating on the sidewalks There is nothing that MTA could do to stop that. I think this is almost entirely an enforcement issue. And in the email chain that I received, it appears that Montgomery County Police had already been informed of this. I think on my side, I can at least follow up with Montgomery County Police to see what, if anything, we can do to help them. But this is, this is beyond our abilities to enforce motor vehicle law. I know it doesn't sound great, but I mean, we can only do so much.
It's your work site. We have to hope you can take control and do the right thing.
And we appreciate that. Give us an opportunity to look into it even deeper. Thank you both. I appreciate it.
We have a question from Joel Ryerson. Go ahead, Joel.
Yes. Good evening. It's Joe Ryerson. I have Forsyth, the Civic Metro Station, the Civic Library, the Dale Drive, and the track going across Coverdale Road. If you're looking at the picture, go look to the left. There's a gray building and a red building. On the side of this the bridge, there's some graffiti right there. And that's a question earlier from Gary and the rest of the people there. I don't know if they can get rid of it. I don't know. So my second question on Dale Drive, the bus services, are they going to keep the bus stops where they are? Are they going to change the bus stops? And also the route.
Okay, I had two questions.
And for the Silver Spring Metro, we might not do anything about it, but there's the flash, the light on, University of Maryland, shuttle bus and Metro to that area. And I want to know if they're going to have a really nice connection when the purple line completes. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, so first question was graffiti. How are we handling graffiti along the corridor?
Yeah, if you're aware of graffiti tagging that's taking place in our construction areas, and if you can take a picture or bring that to attention, or just give us the details, we'd like to take care of that. So absolutely, if we're not aware of it, please, I appreciate anything you can do to bring that to our attention.
Secondly, what is
on the side of the bridge? I was coming up the other day. I see the picture connected over the past 6 months. That page of post, the PowerPoint, page 11, it's right there on the side of the structure.
okay? So please send us a photo of it if you can, Joel. Next question from Joel was the bus stops along Dale Drive. Are they going to be restored?
Yeah, that was my question. On page post PowerPoint number 9, Dale Drive Station. So they're going to remain the same, or they're going to have to adjust it, maybe move it down a little bit or move it up a little bit? Yeah, but it's just the bus stops. Oh, and they're going to keep the same route too? My other question.
I don't know that we have all of our connecting routes worked out as far as the routes that are going to be finalized once the purple line is running. I know that typically there is, a scaling back of duplicative service, so if there is a bus that is currently running a route that the purple line is going to be serving, typically there is some scaling back of the bus route, and it becomes more of a feeder into the light rail line. However, I don't think we have finalized the planning on as far as where the buses are going to run. And my guess is that Montgomery County is still planning out the final configuration as well.
I don't know, Baltimore, they have a lot of modes between. They got the MARC, the light rail, the MTA bus service, I think the Amtrak, and PWI airport. So that's which is going to be like in the future when they get that completed, the purple line. There'll be more transfer to the purple line and the local bus service.
Yeah, the transfer system has not yet been finalized, Joel. So that's something that we'll deal with later on, the transfer and the fare system. And finally, you had a question about a flasher at the WMATA stop?
That's part of the light on too.
Mm-hmm.
It started October 14th.
Okay, we'll have to get back to you on that one.
Gary, do you have contact information so you can reach out to Joel after the meeting?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
In fact, Joel is calling through my phone.
Okay.
He's having technical difficulties, so he's been listening through my cell phone.
Okay.
Hearing some of the questions, and maybe this wasn't a good idea, but I did get some of the questions.
Okay, and as a reminder, the presentation will be posted online so that you can see it later and send us additional questions. You'll have another week to send us questions related to the Silver Spring CAT meeting. Thank you, Joel. Let's see. I think we've got David Fields asks, when could we see the final design of Bonifant East between Fenton and Georgia?
I mean, that's a good question. As far as the final design is actually, made up of dozens, if not hundreds of different drawings, some representing, traffic directions, some directing civil directions, some all kinds of different drawings. We have the drawings, and we can certainly make them available if people want to see the actual engineering drawings. If you're looking for just an indication of direction of travel and what's going to be curb, what's going to be a travel lane, and what's going to be trackway. I think that's captured in a single drawing that we could provide as well. Perhaps if you clarify your needs, we can absolutely include that in the record for this meeting.
Okay, and Karen Roper asks, does Joe have a contact info for SHA if snow is not removed in a timely manner?
Yes, it would be the District 3 Office of Maintenance. I can assemble that information and share to you, Gary, and you can forward it to everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
Webb Smedley asks if the current P3 agreement is unsuccessful, will it make the chances of entering another one unlikely?
I think the short answer is no, but let me give you a longer answer there. If we are unsuccessful in concluding settlement discussions with our existing concessionaire, PLTP, we are actually prepared to go out with a resolicitation for a new concessionaire. We have done some initial, not survey per se, but initial indications coming back from the industry is that there is interest to participate as a P3 or as a concessionaire going forward. And it's really, at this point, it would just be a matter of engaging the industry back in and resoliciting it. And we believe that there's actually a very liquid market out there, and that there is interest in taking this project not only to completion for construction, but to take it in through operations and maintenance as well.
Okay, and I got a response to Joel's question from the county. I believe it says Joel is referring to the Flash BRT service the county just launched, and that we can refer you to the Montgomery County Department of Transportation's Transit Division for assistance.
Yeah, I know they're very proud of that new service running up 29, and they're it's a really nice looking bus.
And I'll be sure to send that information to Joel. Okay, other questions from CAT members or elected officials? Or community residents? Here's a question from Paul Genesee. Is the entire project, as currently specified, considered the final project? Or if you need to cut costs, have you already made lists of what you would change?
Yeah, I understand the question, and I appreciate that. We are currently not planning to change any of the design of the system. The alignment and everything that's contained within it are going to stay as is and be constructed to completion.
Okay. Now, not to worry, if your questions have not been addressed tonight, they will be addressed in our question and response format later, posted on our website. If your question is not, if you don't see your question posted verbatim, some questions that are related will be combined. Additionally, we will accept questions for a week until November 24th at outreach@purplelinemd.com. That's outreach@purplelinemd.com. All right. I'm going to turn it back over to Matt to wrap us up.
Well, thank you, Gary. And, I want to thank everybody who joined us tonight, the CAT members and the public. We appreciate the opportunity to hear your questions and understand your concerns, because we want to be attentive to your concerns. We're trying very hard to communicate more and reduce, if not frustration, but certainly reduce confusion wherever possible. So we thank you for that opportunity and the opportunity to work with you. Have a great evening and a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday.